Welcome back. It's another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. We have some Springbok matters to unpack as the URC takes another break over the next couple of weekends. With me today, John Goliath and Mike Greenaway. Mike's been typing away furiously in terms of just what the Boks had on offer ahead of and during their first national alignment camp this week down here in Cape Town. Now, before we get into it, click that like button, subscribe to our channel at The Clutch ZA. We are here to bring you the latest Springbok and URC news weekly on our podcast. Mike, I'm going to kick off with you because it's been we thought it was going to be a slow week with the URC taking another backseat to the Six Nations, but then Rassie Erasmus and his assistant coaches, together with SA Rugby CEO Rian Oberholzer, and then General Manager Charles Wessels, had a lot to say and a lot to explain about just how the Springboks' season will work with the Nations Championship and then rugby's greatest rivalry. But more importantly, and you wrote about it, Mike, those boardroom meetings with World Rugby and how happy Rassie came back from them. That's not something we normally would use in a sentence, Rassie, happy, boardroom, World Rugby. But it seems it happened. And
Well,
yeah,
well, just to add on to that, Rassie and World Rugby meeting also don't really go
yeah.
hand in hand, because that was the first one. He actually joked, but many a true word spoken in jest. The first one that he's actually attended, because normally when they're on, he's banned, he's suspended. He was quite pleased to actually partake in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think there's so many important points. On the happy front, the South African delegates very happy that they managed to come back fighting a good fight, having maintained the integrity of the game, as they said. There was quite a lot of sort of groundswell about trying to change some of the fundamentals of the game. Like there was that talk about the Aussies in particular wanting the game to have less scrums, becoming more of a rugby league kind of game. That's got squashed. I think the South Africans led the fight there. So not much really has changed about the game. And I think that's important because with 18 months to go to a Rugby World Cup, you don't want now to have to change the whole landscape in terms of how you play the game. So basically, as we've seen rugby played in the whole of last year and into this year, that's how it will be at the World Cup. And I think that's very important. You don't have to reinvent the wheel because there's going to be all these fundamental changes. The not so lacquer front, it was just, I think we've kind of known it's coming for a while, but Rian Oberholzer saying that he can't see South Africa ever hosting another Rugby
Yeah.
World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's and he did explain it, and he put it quite bluntly. He just said, "Look, the amateur days of World Rugby, saying, okay, it's this continent's turn now for the World Cup, and then it'll be your turn, and it kind of gets shared out." He said that has gone long ago because World Rugby sees the World Cup as its only revenue stream. That is where they get all their money from. And then Rian Oberholzer told us that it then gets filtered out across the world. So the more money that comes from the Rugby World Cup, the more all the unions across the world get. So you can understand to a degree the point. So Rian just said, look, South Africa and New Zealand, funnily enough, he mentioned as well, financially and commercially just cannot compete with the euro, with the yen, and the pound. Yeah. So and the US dollar, not to mention the currency they have in the Middle East these days, or maybe that one's going to be removed from the agenda, considering what's going on there. But yeah, I think that just to start with, guys, and then we can move into some specifics. But I think those were two things that struck me. The game is going to stay the same. Poor old Springboks are going to have to play away from home in World Cups forevermore.
Yeah, for me that's quite disappointing because I mean, you would think that South Africa, and I don't really know how the sort of the revenue side of it works, but for me, we're in a perfect time zone to host the World Cup because it aligns with Europe. We'll all the stadiums will be filled. We've got massive stadiums. It's easy to travel here. Um, so what would be the problem? Would it be about? I mean, the TV rights anyway would be in dollars and euro anyway. So yeah, somebody needs to explain it to me like I'm a 5 year old just how it all works because seriously it's just about hosting it. I mean, as the host country supposed to generate a certain amount of money. I mean, our climate is good, the weather
Mm,
would be great for a
yeah.
World Cup in September, October. So yeah, South Africa would be the perfect place. It's quite
Mm.
disappointing.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, Mike, the biggest talking point and the good news was that we are not going into a rugby league direction. I think that is that when I first heard it that they want to take away the scrums and the mauling and so on, and it feels like they want to take out the soul of the game because
Yeah.
that is
Yeah. Yeah.
still what makes rugby so different and so unique from rugby league. That would have been a shocker. Just because you can't produce proper props doesn't mean the rest of the world is going to suffer. And I think the French and Italy would also be disagreeing on those
Yeah,
points. It's probably just
yeah.
Ireland and the Wallabies and the All Blacks, I guess, to a lesser
Uh,
extent, who would moan about that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting in that World Rugby meetings that suddenly the French were fighting in the corner of the box, and it's the French who actually took the last viable chance of the box to host the
Mm.
Rugby World Cup away from them. So
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
interesting how things change within
Yeah.
a matter of years in World Rugby's boardrooms. But yeah, guys, it's Rassi had explained this in a very animated way, just about how the discussions went in terms of those scrums and all of that, and how it's adjudicated. It's not a case of and this was now trying to put everything together of what he said, but it's not about one being too powerful for the other one, but scrums and the penalties that refs are giving is because the one team is not fronting up. They are totally falling away. Nowadays, it's adjudicated like this. You can push a team back 50, 20 meters in the scrum as long as they stay in the contest. It's a
Yeah.
fair contest. There won't be a penalty if you are walked back for 5 meters, but the penalty
Yeah.
comes as soon as they see the opposition team sees they're under pressure and the loose head or tight head just buckles their shoulder in and the scrum falls. That's where the
Yeah.
Or,
penalty is
or
usually
pops up,
given.
or pops up. Any way of
Yeah.
disengaging. Yeah.
Yes, yes, like like in the case of Ted Furlong. So some interesting things that came out of those boardroom meetings that we are definitely over the next couple of weeks going to delve deeper into to just give a proper explanation to the man on the street. Just a last word on the Rugby World Cup. Um, that I think the main problem and the stumbling block for country like South Africa is giving that guarantee to World Rugby. That I'm not too sure what that amount is, but the government would need to fork out millions to just guarantee that the tournament can be hosted in in the country. And that part of getting that government buy-in to give this amount of money, local, provincial government, yes, we have the facilities to host a proper World Cup. We have the people who will sell out stadiums. It doesn't matter if they will bring um, whoever. Romania will have sold out stadiums. They can take Romania to Boland Stadium in Wellington. It will be sold out.
Hey,
They can go to Athlone in Cape Town. It will be sold out. Wit Stadium in Joburg, it will be sold out. The people will be there, but you are not going to generate those guarantees and that kind of money with the people around the stadiums and the tickets. The tickets must be fairly priced so that the people can come in the first place. It's all about as I understand it, it's about that guarantee to give World Rugby. Because that and then the broadcast money, that is the prized pool that secures the hosting rights for a World Cup. And I don't think South Africa, in the troubles that we are in
different
financially,
priorities.
will be able to pay that guarantee for a World Cup hosting. But
Yeah,
we'll bring you more
because
on that as
yeah,
go
no,
on.
Gaten promised us the F1 and then he said it was going to be too much.
Exactly.
So
That
we can't
is
host one
precisely
F1
it.
race. What,
The F
what hope do we have of having a rugby
exactly.
World Cup?
The F1 needs its guarantees as well, and that is where what is the Minister of Events spoke too quickly about that. And that is why SA Rugby is so cautious about making pronouncements about getting the World Cup back to South Africa. Yes, if they do get a guarantee, by all means, they will definitely hit the ground running to get the tournament here. But for now, South African folks, we will have to be content with traveling to Australia, the US. If you're lucky enough to get your visa approved, just check your social media posts and remove any criticism against the US from those posts. Then you'll be assured of a visa for 2031's World Cup that side. Guys, we are with the Bok alignment camp here in Cape Town. Rassie said there might be, depending on how they fit into the camp, those 11 uncapped players, there might be some scope to use them this season, but it's not a guarantee that they will play. Mike?
Yeah, look, I mean, what have we got? 49 guys, and then we've got another, how many are going to be
21.
online?
21.
21. So we've got 60 players. We've got 14 matches, so 13 tests and one friendly against the Barbarians. Rassie says he needs to have at least 5 or 6 deep in every position going to the World Cup. And he used, yeah.
5 or 6?
Yeah, in every position. No, he did. And
Wow.
he cited the example of what happened in the 2011 World Cup in New Zealand when Dan Carter got injured, and then the next one got injured, and the
Stephen
next one got
Donald
injured.
And then,
And
yeah, Donald.
Stephen Donald was famously fishing for trout on the Waikato River.
Yeah.
And he got a phone call from, who would have been a coach then, Steve Hansen or Graham Henry, I can't remember which one, saying, put the rod down and come to training. You're playing in the final on Saturday. Yeah, so that's what Rassie's saying, and I think that is where some of those youngsters are going to come through. As we know, quite a lot of them, it's just a case of Rassie wanting to get to know guys. Sometimes it can be as simple as that. That he invites someone he has no relationship with. You know, there's it's Kai Pratt, for instance. I mean, he hasn't even played for the Sharks. Now he's at a Springbok alignment camp. Rassie maybe just wants to shake his hand, sit down and talk rugby with him, get to know him a bit better. So there's quite a few of those where he just wants to check them out, see how they how they fit into a Springbok environment. And then there'll be the more serious ones that will have a maybe get a bit of a run. I'd like to see a bolter like Marcus Muller maybe get a run somewhere along the line. I think that guy has got the potential to be a kind of a Sasha, kind of generational talent. Um, but yeah, when you hear Rassie saying that this is his last chance this year to just get uncover a little bit more talent, so like he says, he wants
Mm.
to be 5 or 6 deep, know who his 5 or 6 are in every single position on the field. Then he's going to have to give some of these lighties a run.
Yeah, I would also like to see Marcus, but I think I would like to see him with the Stormers first, and the Stormers may need him at this
Mm,
point, in terms of that outside center berth. But
Yeah,
yeah, for I think for Rassie also wants to expose the youngsters to the
mm,
culture. I think
absolutely.
I
that's
think
important.
last season a guy like Batu mentioned that was sort of an eye opener
Mm,
to him and at the level at which you need to be
mm,
actually be a Springbok and the level you need to reach and the
mm,
intensity and how they train.
mm,
So it's sort of an eye opener for these guys to check, oh my goodness,
mm,
I'm not nearly at this level, or this
mm,
is actually how hard I need to
mm,
train. So that's probably why. And I think to have 60 players, it just shows you the depth. South African rugby
mm.
has never been this strong. Never, ever. I don't know when Mike would know better than me, stretching back years, but South African rugby has never been this strong. And it just shows you also that the Rassie, while it's strong, is not resting on his laurels,
Mm,
that he knows
Yes,
he needs to keep developing. He needs to, I think that is probably where the All Blacks over the last, say, 5 years, maybe stretching back the All Blacks maybe our pump line will forever be pumping.
mm,
But after South Africans left Super Rugby and their pipeline didn't get that sort of the proper filtration
mm,
for players to make to produce good test players. They now are struggling to produce test quality players all over the park.
yeah,
So yeah, just for Rassie and it just shows how strong we are at the moment.
yeah. And for me, I would definitely want to see one of Cheswell Schuster or Jaco Williams
mm,
crack a nod this year. If you look at the age profile of the Bok Wings, it is kind of in the high.
mm,
And it's I think it's time for a 22-year-old 21-year-old,
mm,
what is Chiswell still under 20, so 20-year-old, to make his appearance in the national squad, and just to ensure that when Cheslin Kirtley's leaving the Bulls at the end of the season, because he um he sees his future in Japan. So we need someone alongside Edwil van der Merwe. Edwil is also not a spring chicken anymore, although he's still got the pace. But I think the focus should definitely be on one of Yaku and Jeswell to see what they can bring this season. We know what they can do at URC level. Um, but I don't know about you guys, but I would definitely like to see one
mm.
of them crack a nod this season, especially against the Barbas, maybe to get a run for the box for us to see
Yeah.
where they are at.
I An interesting thing for me is what I thought about is that I think we might see going into the World Cup, Cheslin Cole be playing a lot more fullback. I've just got that feeling because the fullback depth at the moment in this country is probably the one position where you've got Damien Willemse and you've got Apalele Fassi. And then where do you go from there? Fassi is injured at the moment. I don't know how long he will be out, but sort of that leaves Damien Willems. And if we look at all the teams around the country, there's maybe Q and Horn that stands out as a potential backup. But I think we might see a lot more of Cheslin playing at fullback because Cheslin, while he's not the biggest guy in the world, he's got a tremendous leap on him. Very safe under the high ball. He's contrary to popular belief, he can kick well. He's got a big boot. He's experienced. So I think we might see more of Cheslin, and that may open up sort of one of the wing positions for a youngster to come through.
Yeah, and I think also then um, if we look at Hashim Peed at scrum half, wouldn't mind seeing him
Yeah,
have a go as
hundred.
well.
Mm.
I think our hookers, maybe some of them are also getting a little bit long in the tooth. There's that very promising hooker at the Bulls, Mbelele. I think he might get a little taste here and there. And then Hlakani himself. I mean, Bartosz Hlakani certainly is looking the business. Um, so yeah, I think those guys will get a little dip in the water somewhere along the lines, maybe in the match against Wales. Possibly a couple will get a turn against Scotland. There's also the away test against Argentina. Rassie might want to use that one to give some wider players a go. I mean, the ones where he simply can't throw anyone to the wolves, obviously, is those four tests against the All Blacks.
Yeah,
We know that he's targeted England. I mean, and then going overseas at the end of the year, France, Ireland, Italy, maybe a couple might get a chance there.
yeah, yeah. For me, it's going to be, it should be a year of some more experiments in terms, not in terms of combinations, but I feel single players getting a run in the side. Like you mentioned now, Mike, that Argentina game, perfect for it. The Barbas game, mixing some of those guys up like he did with Vincent Chatuka, mixing them up with those Japanese-based players, um, getting them to just get a feel of high intensity rugby. Someone like Hashim Peet, high intensity rugby, but not a game where you definitely must win it or you must play within a certain
Mm,
structure. Although
mm,
I feel the box will look to be a bit structured against the Barbas. We saw it in Cape Town in that rain-affected game last year. They're playing in Gqeberha this year. So it should be a little bit more dry come June in terms of the conditions of the game. It was wet here in Cape Town, but they will play with a certain bit of structure, but there will also be scope for some of those guys like Vince did. He was absolutely good in that Barbers game and showed that he can fit in at
mm,
that high level. So hopefully things pan out for Rassie and the hopefuls
mm,
going into the new season.
mm. Yeah.
It will be good to see some fresh faces getting a run to see if they can make it to the World Cup.
Yeah. Sorry, man. And there was one I wanted to mention. It just escaped me for a sec. You mentioned maybe giving some wings a go. Wow, I think Sebastian de Klerk has put his hand up. I think that
Wow.
guy is
Mm.
certainly due a good run with the box. He is consistently good for the Bulls. Under the high ball in the aerial contest, he makes 4 or 5 breaks a game. His tackling is good. He's consistently good. I'd like to see him get a chance.
I think we will. I think we will
Mm.
actually. I mean, if you look at the five standout players, South African players in the URC at the moment, he's definitely among those fives. He's played so well, and it just looks like he's got a good rugby brain as well and
Mm.
confidence to go with it. So I
Yeah.
would definitely make that is a fantastic call. I actually think we might see him in quite a few tests this year.
Yeah. Guys, we still have plenty of box. Guys, we still have plenty of box stuff to discuss as the weeks go on in the build up to the international season in June and July. But for now, I think we've had a mouthful of what Rassie is planning, the whole thing of not being able to host a World Cup for the foreseeable future. And then, of course, the youngsters we'd like to see getting their debut in the coming months for the box and potentially going on to star at a World Cup. Um, I think like John said, it's it's absolutely brilliant to see the depth of South African rugby and just how Rassie can pick and choose who and what he wants for his alignment camp. So hopefully some more news come out of the camp this coming week that we can hammer on next week. We will have the SA Rugby Awards and the winner will be crowned on Thursday. So keep an eye on that and we will bring you some news from that in the next episode. You've been tuned into the last word on rugby. I know it's been a quick chat of Bok Rugby. We will be back with some URC preview, the North-South Derby. The final one is not next week, but it will be in 2 Saturdays' time, and we will touch on that in the next episode before we get going with that Bulls Stormers derby. The Stormers on a slump a bit, the Bulls on a high. I know where to these two gents' predictions will go, but we'll see when it comes to that next week. Chaps, thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next week again.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.